Hey everyone, my name is Gaby. Welcome back to my channel. And I wish I wasn't coming to you during such a difficult time right now. And I'm not gonna pretend like I don't know what's going on out there. We all know, we're all very pissed and very angry, and rightfully so. And not just over the death of George Floyd, but over the system of injustice that caused it and the police officers that caused it. And so, yeah, we all know what's going on out there, the protests and everything. And so, before, I just want to preface this video saying that in the description, I've put links to petitions and places where you can donate. And I strongly urge you to go and sign and donate, because even if it's just a little bit, anything you do can go a long way, literally anything. And I don't think this is not the time right now to be sitting out of this fight and doing nothing. If you're protesting out there, I really hope that you're staying safe and that you're as safe as you could possibly be out there. And yeah, and I hope you're staying healthy and staying well. And thank you for protesting. Thank you for going out and doing something. We're all standing there with you. So I also want to shout out Jesse from bowtiesandbooks, because they have been protesting and they've been documenting it on their Insta story. And I don't think Jesse's ever going to see this video, but Jesse, if you're watching, we are all with you. We are all standing with you. I hope you are staying safe and staying healthy and well and taking care of yourself. And thank you for everything you're doing out there. I'm also going to link Jesse's channel and their Instagram in the description. Everything will be in the description down below, all the links, everything. The links will be down below. I really hope you take advantage of them. I really do, because this is if there was ever a time for you to do something, the time is now. The way the world is now, how chaotic it has been this year, this is not the time to hide in your home or hide on social media or to be hiding in general, because you can't just ignore it. You are a citizen of the world, so act like it. Act like a citizen of the world. Be a participant. Participate in the world. Don't be a passive bystander. I guess the last note I want to touch on is I hope that we all do our part and we are able to get justice, not just for George Floyd, but for all of the Black people that have been killed wrongfully, either by police or by normal citizens that just decided to take matters into their own hands. I hope they all get justice. I hope the system changes. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on that. And now I'm going to get to the actual video. Okay, hey everyone, yeah, it's 2 seconds later. It's been like a minute later. But yeah, here's the actual video. If you looked at the title, this is going to be a mini book haul plus my wrap up from last month from Asian Readathon, because I said I was going to read a lot of books in my TBR for Asian Readathon. Did I read all of them? No, I absolutely did not. Did I read books that weren't even in that video? Yes, I absolutely did. But first, before I get into what I actually read, I want to share with you some books that I bought. So the first book I bought was The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. So what this book is about is this town or this island where people are losing their memories of things. So certain objects, like people just keep forgetting what they are, and I don't know, I guess it's somehow being controlled by the government or something. Like people are just forgetting things, but somehow the main character still remembers things and is like explaining it to her daughter or something. I actually don't really know. I don't really know. I just know that this island is losing their memory. And so they only have pieces of what they remember about the world and things like that. I am really excited to read this. It's actually pretty funny. I was like so hyped to read this, and so I couldn't wait to get it. But once it got here, I didn't read it, and I'm like, why didn't I read it? It was like I was in the mood for it like all the way up until it got here, and then I was like, I'm not really in the mood for this right now. And I'm like, wow, okay. So I have not read this yet, but I will soon. Yoko Ogawa is a Japanese author, if you didn't know. All these books that I bought that I'm sharing with you are by Asian authors, so it fits with the Asian Readathon wrap-up. So yeah. The second book I bought was Shatter Me by Tehara Mafi. And I got this book because this is a pretty popular YA book, but it's one that I've never ever read. I don't know, some people really like it, some people don't really like it, I guess. I mean, I feel like every popular YA book is like that, like there's mixed reviews about it. But the reason I decided to all of a sudden get this book now is because this is my best friend's, one of her favorite books and one of her favorite series. And so because she really loves it so much, it makes me kind of excited to read it. I don't know when I'm gonna read it because I've already read kind of like the first chapter and the first couple of pages, so I I can get the vibe of it, and I just haven't been in the mood to really read it. And so that's why I haven't really started it, because I just haven't been feeling it. But hopefully I will get around to this book eventually and see why my best friend loves it so much. And so the third book that I got was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ngan. Is that how you say it? I hope I said that right. I heard someone say it in a video, and I think it was Nan, or Nan. No, it wasn't Nan, it was Nan. But yeah, if you don't know, this is a YA fantasy about a girl who is human, living in a world of humans and demons. And this girl, even though she's human, she mysteriously has golden eyes. And so that seems to attract a lot of attention for her. And so she gets chosen and taken away from her family to be a paper girl, which is really just a nicer name for a sex slave for the Demon King. But during her time as a paper girl, things get complicated when she ends up falling in love with one of the other paper girls. I'll talk more about this book later, because out of the 3 books that I got, this was the one that I read for Asian Readathon. So I will get to this in a second. Okay, so the first book I read for Asian Readathon was an audiobook that I checked out, and it was Birds Are Life by Maclear. And she is an author, she's a Canadian author who's half British, half Japanese, and she wrote this book about how she had decided to take a year to learn how to birdwatch and to start bird watching, because she had decided she needed a new hobby away from her writing and away from reading, because she felt she was in a place in her life where she was kind of stuck and in a constant state of worry and anxiety, and she needed something to take her mind off of all of that. And so she decided, hey, I'm gonna start bird watching. And so she contacts this musician who's a bird watcher, and she follows him, and he's kind of acts as her bird watching mentor, and they become friends. And it's just about what the title says. It's about birds and art and life. So in the book, the author reflects on her own life, and she talks about birds and her art and her writing and her creativity, but she also talks about hardship and struggles, war, climate change, so many things that she reflects on within the book. Freedom. And yeah, if you want something that will be calming to listen to and will also be reflective and maybe make you think a little bit, I highly recommend listening to this audiobook. It's also not a long audiobook, because some audiobooks I've seen are like 10 hours. This one is only like it's only five and a half hours maybe, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed this book. It had really beautiful writing. Yeah, so I gave that book 4 out of 5 stars because I really liked it, and I would recommend for anyone who seems interested. Oh yeah, and if you remember, that book, Birds Art Life, is the book that I chose for the second challenge, which was read an Asian author you can relate to, and it was because, oh hey, she's a writer, I'm a writer, kind of, so this kind of counts. And I was like, yeah, but after reading that book, I was like, ooh, no, she's a good writer. Yeah, I'm not even on that level, so. So the second book I read for Asian Readathon was the group book Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. She is a Chinese American author, and if you want it, the quick synopsis of the book is a very rich white family's house burns down, and the whole book is trying to figure out, okay, why did this house burn down? And it was really good. I also participated in the watch along where we watched the Hulu TV show, which was also really good. And on Goodreads, I gave Little Fires Everywhere 5 out of 5 stars. I think after thinking about it, I think it's more of like 4.5. I don't think it's a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's more 4.5. If you didn't watch, I made another video. My previous video, I talked about Little Fires Everywhere, the book, and talked about why I really liked it and the elements that I think Celeste Ng did really well in the book when writing it. And so if you want to hear more of my in-depth thoughts about the book and the whys of why I enjoyed it, I would highly recommend that you watch that video. Ooh, if you ask me which one I like better, as soon as I finished the TV show, I said, wow, I think I like the TV show better. But after thinking about it, I like both of them, but for different reasons. Although I think I might like the TV show slightly better, but I also still really like the book. So, but the show also isn't perfect. I think it would also get like a 4.5 star in my opinion, or maybe a 4 star. But how would it be a 4 star if I said I liked it better than the book? I don't know. I might make a video about that too, about why I liked the TV show and about why I felt it was a good adaptation. Let me know if you want to see that. So the third book I read for Asian Readathon was a very sharp change of pace from the first 2 that I read, because I just wanted I was feeling in the mood for something fun to read, and this was not in my original TBR, and I decided, no, I'm gonna read this because this seems fun and I need something fun. And so I read Arusha and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. Okay. Roshani Chokshi. Yeah, Roshani Chokshi is an Indian author, and she wrote this. This is part of the Rick Riordan Presents books. Basically, it's about this girl, Arusha, who lives in Atlanta, and she is 12, and she also lives in the Museum of Ancient Indian Art and Culture. And one day, in an attempt to impress some of her friends, she rubs a magical lamp that and accidentally starts the apocalypse essentially, and then she has to team up with her long lost soul sister, literally, and a talking pigeon to stop the end of time. And it was really good. I was very entertained. If you want to read a Percy Jackson book that's not Percy Jackson, I would recommend this because it has the same feel to it. I will say though, I think this book has a lot less action than Percy Jackson does. Then again, it's been a while since I've read Percy Jackson, but I say that because in Percy Jackson, the quests, I feel like, have more to do with fighting monsters with swords and weapons and things, whereas with Arusha, it's more about these two girls trying to defeat the monsters they encounter and keep going through their quest using their smarts and using the skills that they already have rather than brute strength. So if you want to see two middle school girls try to collect all of their brain cells to defeat monsters and to solve problems, then this is the book for you. But yeah, I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because just for pure enjoyment, I really liked it. I think 2 of the highlights for me of this book was the relationship between the two sisters and how that formed. I really enjoyed that. That was really cute. I really liked that. And also the humor. I thought the humor was really funny. Like, there were I don't know, maybe I'm just a middle schooler at heart, but there were I thought the jokes were really funny because, you know, so if you want a middle grade book with all the humor of a Rick Riordan book, then this would be a good book because I thought the jokes were funny. Yeah, also, I will add that I think it did a really good job in setting up the character arcs and story arcs for the rest of the story, even though I haven't read the rest of the books. But I like the foundation that it set for things to occur later, and I can't really explain without spoiling the book, so I'll just leave it at that. I read this book for the challenge of read a book recommended by an Asian, and Janani, who is South Asian, over on the channel This Story Ain't Over, talked about how she really liked this first book of the series, and she was going to read the rest for Asian Readathon. So yeah, so that challenge completed. The 4th book that I read this month was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This is also one that was in my original TBR, even though it wasn't for any of the challenges. Although for this book, I read this for the 3rd challenge of read a book with a main character that is different from you, and this character is very different from me, given that the main character is gay and an immigrant and a guy. I said in my original TBR that this was a story about his life. Turns out, technically, this novel is fiction. Apparently, it's technically fiction, but it takes heavy influence from Ocean Vuong's actual life. So it's almost like a fictionalized version of his life, which is kind of weird, but also makes sense at the same time, because I'm like, if I could write fictionalized version of my life, hell yeah, I would do that. Or fictionalize certain parts of my life and put that into a book. Yeah, I would do that. This book is basically about the main character. It follows the main character, and the main character is writing this letter to his mother, even though he knows she will never read it because she can't read and she can't write. Yeah, so the whole book is for his mother, even though she'll never read it. And so it seems like it's a very cathartic exercise, and a lot of the book is just, it's loosely in chronological order, but a lot of the events are kind of mismatched, and it's almost like snapshots of his life that are told a bit out of order, and are kind of woven together with this very poetic, beautiful writing. Honestly, I think the standout element of this book for me and for a lot of other people is the beautiful writing. However, despite how beautiful it was, I just don't feel like I really like connected to it. And I think that might have been because of the writing. Maybe it might have been because I was reading it from my phone, and so I was also having trouble focusing during it. I think a lot of it is very much like his poetry, and the book is almost like one long poem, and so I think that is also what makes it hard to really connect to. It's something you know is really good, but for some reason, like, there's something missing. There's just something not there, and so that's kind of how I felt. Also, I want to say that this book covers a lot of things like mental illness and pain and trauma and drug abuse and domestic violence and child abuse and war, and how war and trauma and violence and mental illness all affect family dynamics, which is also really interesting to read, but also be aware that all of that is in there if you're going in to read it. There are a lot of heavy topics in there that he discusses within the book. But yeah, overall, at first I gave it 4 stars, and then I gave it 3 stars because I felt like there was something missing. So I gave it 3 stars, mainly for the beautiful, beautiful writing, and there's a lot of symbolism and metaphors in there that are really beautiful, but I think, you know, a lot of it kind of went over my head because it was almost like so much that my brain cells couldn't compute exactly what the meaning was. And maybe that would be different if I had the physical copy and I could actually like read it over and over and over again and like highlight, I don't know. But yeah, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. That's my rating. So yeah, the 5th book I read was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ngan. And so I mentioned earlier what it was about. Girl, she gets selected to be a paper girl, aka a sex slave, to the Demon King, but then she falls in love with the other paper girl and stuff happens. That's basically all I'm gonna say. Stuff happens. So yeah, I was just in the mood for some good old YA fantasy, and this is what that gave me. This book very much reads like a YA fantasy, so if you really enjoy that genre, I would highly recommend it because you would probably enjoy this book if you enjoy the genre. This book is basically like, oh hey, let's take YA fantasy, but instead let's make it gay. And you know, I was here for it. I liked it. Unfortunately, I only gave this book 3 stars. So I did really enjoy it, and I don't know, it's probably more of a 3.5. So I did enjoy it, but I didn't like really like it, and I wasn't like in love with it. It was a lot like any other YA fantasy other than, oh, main character's gay. But yeah, the romance in this book was really cute. It was really cute, but kind of average. Not average, just kind of not really cheesy, kind of cheesy, I don't know. But it was a lot like a lot of other YA romances, like a lot of other romances and like fantasy books. And I felt like, even, yeah, it was really cute, but I felt like they fell in love with each other really fast, and I feel like I didn't really get to see their relationship developed fully. I didn't see it fully fleshed out. I don't know, they just fell in love with each other so quickly, and I feel like maybe if it was more of a slow burn, or if the relationship felt a little more fleshed out, I would have enjoyed it more. Not saying I didn't enjoy it, I did, but I think I would have been more attached to them as a couple if I saw those elements. And then again, that being said, I did like the message that their relationship sent. This message that even under such horrid circumstances, they can still find refuge within each other, and that their love can be an act of defiance. and it's in a way that's that's less cheesy than other fantasy novels because it has actual significance, not just in the book but in real life, because you know, the patriarchy. And so I could appreciate that. And another thing about this book that I think really could have taken it to a 4-star, maybe even a 5-star, I don't know, but really could have taken it higher as far as my rating and my enjoyment of it, is if the characters, like the paper girls, actually were like almost like a found family in a way, or I guess in this case a forced family, because in the book at one point the main character says, oh, it's like we're one big dysfunctional family, or she says something like that. And I could understand the dysfunctional part. I did not understand the family part, because honestly they didn't really seem like a family to me. I don't think they had the elements of a family. I think the girls, because in the book there are 8 paper girls, and so I just feel like the girls kind of just split up in their own little pods. I didn't feel like they were a cohesive family. And only half of the girls had really distinguishable personalities, and that was the main character, her love interest, and her best friend, and like the mean girl. So meanwhile the other 4 girls had like less of a personality. So only Lai, Ren, Aoki, and Blue have distinguishable personalities. The other girls, out of the other 4 girls, the one that I think had the most personality was maybe Chenna, because I always knew she was always the one that was really religious and making like prayer symbols and stuff. But Mariko's only personality trait was that she was Blue's sidekick, and then the twins, they had no personality. The twins had no distinguishable personality at all. The main character could barely tell them apart. So how am I supposed to tell them apart? They just seem like they might as well have been the same person. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't think this was a family dynamic at all. And I feel like if they had developed a family dynamic in the book, I think I would have liked this book a lot more. But they didn't. But like there's so much of this book, like it's like over 300 pages, and looking back, not even a lot happens in this book. So I feel like the author could have had a lot of room to develop family dynamics between the girls and like flesh out the other girls' personalities more, but that just didn't happen. And so I wish I could have seen that. I wish I could have seen that. But yeah. Also, spoilers, so skip ahead a little bit until I put the book down. One thing I did appreciate in this book was Aoki's character arc that she takes, because I think it really shows how evil, like how abusive men are not necessarily like outright evil all the time. They can also be very charismatic and very manipulative, and I think her story arc really shows how that is the case and how people can fall victim to that type of thing. So I did really appreciate that particular character arc within the book. But yeah, this was probably 3.5 stars out of 5. And then the 6th and final book. I'm counting, so this is split into 3 different parts, but I'm just counting it all as one book because the 3 different parts are really, really short. I decided last month that I was going to start reading the Avatar comics. So I read Avatar: The Promise parts 1, 2, and 3, and I really, really enjoyed them. I really liked them. If you have just binge watched all of Avatar on Netflix and you're craving more Avatar content, I recommend starting the comics. You can look up what order you're supposed to read them in. The first one you're supposed to read is The Promise, which takes literally it picks up right where the TV series ends. So it just flows right into it. And then after The Promise, I think, is The Search. And then after that, I don't really remember. But yeah, I read The Promise and it was good. I really like that even though the war is over, everything's not just, oh, butterflies and rainbows. Like, no, that's not what's happening. Basically, in these comics, the characters have to confront the effects of the Fire Nation's colonial rule over the past 100 years and try to find solutions of what is the next step forward. And so the comics mainly focus on Aang and Zuko and how they're dealing with how to resolve these things. And I really like that Zuko is still kind of struggling with his morality. It's not just, oh, I chose the good side, so now all of a sudden I know what's right and I completely have trust in my judgment and blah blah blah. No, like, he's still struggling with his morality and thinking, oh, is this the right thing to do? Is that the right thing to do? Am I doing everything wrong? Am I becoming like my father? And I really like seeing that struggle. And also Aang, we get to see Aang struggle with something that we haven't seen him struggle with within the show. And I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I thought it was very interesting. And I like how the comics talk about colonialism and also culture and peace and what to do and the struggles post-war and all that stuff. I don't even really know what to rate this because I'm like, what do you rate Avatar? Like, I love Avatar, like everything Avatar. Like, do I just rate this 5 stars because it's Avatar? I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I honestly, I probably rate it 5 stars. It's definitely in the 4 to 5 star range, but yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And that was the last book that I read in the month of May, because if you recall, I said I was going to reread the entire Legend trilogy. Well, I got 100 pages into Legend, and then I stopped before things got interesting, because I stopped like a week ago, because like that's when all this stuff was happening in the news and stuff, and I was on Twitter a lot keeping up with everything, and I just didn't feel like reading anything, so that's why I stopped. So I never finished this, so that was a fail. I mean, it wasn't a fail, it was just circumstances and all that stuff. But you know who else is rereading the trilogy is my sister, so that's fun. Also, if you're wondering, I'm not going to post a TBR for the month of June just because I honestly don't know what books I'm going to end up reading. Although I will say that I started the audiobook for The Poet X, and I am loving it. I've been wanting to read The Poet X for a long time now, and I'm glad I finally get to read it, and I'm listening to the audiobook because the audiobook is so good. So if you're also someone who hasn't read it and you're really excited to read it, I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook because it's really good so far. But yeah, also there's a lot of different books that I want to read this month, but I honestly don't know what I'm going to read because I don't know what I'll be in the mood for. Hopefully I'll be reading this bad boy back here. Yeah, you see that? The Tyrant's Tomb, because I have been putting that off for a while, and I really want to get to that eventually at some point, especially since I think, is the Tower of Nero coming out sometime this year? I think it should be, so really want to read that. Yeah. So that was my wrap up. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you liked it. I hope this video could provide some form of escapism for you away from Twitter and the media and the news and all that stuff. And I just want to reiterate, I hope you all are staying safe, staying healthy, and staying well. And again, I will remind you, look in the description because there are links and you should click on them. Thank you. But yeah, we'll get through this. We'll get through this. I mean, I have absolutely no idea if we're gonna get through this. We're in a pandemic, and now all this. I'm like, honestly, I don't know. For all I know, I'm saying we'll get through this, but for all I know, it could be the end of the world. So, what do I know? But yeah, I'm here for you. We're all here for each other, and sign, donate, do all that stuff. Do whatever you can. Do whatever you can do. Yeah. I don't really know how to end this, so bye.